What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. So this is part 3 of West Africa travel videos, and this is the final part as well. On February 1st, 2024, I left the Gambia with one intention: to travel to every single country in West Africa by road. From Gambia, I crossed into Guinea through Senegal, and from Guinea, I went to Sierra Leone, Liberia, Ivory Coast, Ghana, Togo, Benin, Nigeria, Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, Mauritania, Senegal, then Cape Verde, back to Guinea-Bissau, and then I went home. This whole journey took me 5 months, and here are some of the things that I've learned, and I'll be sharing it through Q&A, some of the questions that you've asked me, and I'll be answering it. And let me tell you this. When I started my first West African road trip, right, I left, when I was leaving, I was like an optimist, really. I was very excited about the future and Africa. But when I was done with this trip, right, I came back like a skeptic because of all the things that I saw and some of the things that I've learned. I was like, do we really want unity, or are we just saying these things, you know? The first questions I would start with is, can we ever have one Africa? Big man. Just because we are all black, it doesn't mean we are all the same, we are one people, you know? And I've learned this. I like the travel. This have taught me that, right? And it also made me realize that, you know, I used to say, oh, Africa, why we used to sell each other? Our forefathers, they were selling each other. But actually, they were not selling each other. You know, they were selling people from other clans and other tribes. You know, for example, the Jollof Kingdom, like Jollof Kings, they were very tight with the Portuguese, and because they were selling theirs like this trade. But they were not selling their own, like, people that they feel like they are brothers, right? They are selling people from other tribes, from other clans, some of these trips, especially when I was crossing through Burkina Faso, and something hit, I was like, you know, if slavery was still on, these people I'd have no doubt that they would have sold me there. Again, I would say tribalism, these things are not going away. So we don't have to like each other, we don't have to be one. We just have to understand that, okay, we have this thing that we all share. We own this, like together, Africa, our continent, right, our motherland, this is ours. It's in the best interest of all of us to work together, not because we like each other, but because we want this continent, we want to move from this place, we want to move from point A to point B. We want to do better, we want our continent to do better, because that's the only way it can be better, by working together. And you know, that one Africa also, another thing is because it will be very hard to get, because also, you know, Africa, the way it's partitioned, like the countries, the way they're divided, because also this, you know, the scramble for Africa. Some countries, really, they don't have that much, like, partnership and all these things. The way it works is, if you're partnering with someone or you're working together, this one you have something to offer, this one has something to offer. Okay, so it's in your interest, you put your interest and then you work together. So, but now some countries in West Africa, let me just say West Africa, right? They're like very small. In terms of economy, there's not much there, there's not have much to offer, and so the bigger economies will see, why would I partner with this? Why would I want to do this with it? It's not in my interest. And the smaller economies, smaller countries are too proud, you know, to collaborate, to go ask, because sometimes you have these things, your next door neighbor, right, or a slightly bigger economy in your just two, 3 countries away, they have some things figured out. You can easily hire consultant, you know, ask them for something, but no, you'll just rather go to run somewhere to Europe instead of just hiring your next door neighbor and just working together and these things, right? We will say, oh, we don't have Africa. Actually, we have very good leaders, man. We do have, right? But you know what happened? The good leaders that we have, they get assassinated, man. So you know there's also another force. You know, you are like taking one step. It's like taking one step forward and then 2 steps back. So there's also that as well, you know. For changes like that to happen, right, it will never come through like this thing, content, sharing, oh, my knowledge, this is what I learned, talking, like meeting. We've been doing that for days, for years, you know, meetings and capacity building, whatever, not taking us. It comes, all this change that we seek for our continent, right, it comes through rebellion. Things like a true fight, that is like me, that is my conclusion, that is what I see. And also because as I travel around, I just realize how privileged I really am. And because I used to say, oh, Africa, not just Gambia, I was like, oh, we need to sit back and work, this country is ours, you know, Africans, we should stay at home and work. For me to just sit and say this, it means like I'm even privileged, because as I went around, you know, in Sierra Leone, you get into these villages, in Niger, in Mali, you know, I'm like, yo, I totally understand why, you know, these people really will just sacrifice their lives just to get outside of the continent. Like, I totally get it, right?
You know, you don't tell these people sit and wait, sit. Their lands, the lands there, they're rich, right? There's everything there, there's opportunity, there's things. But the youths like that, they lost hope in their countries, they lost hope in their governments because of the things that they're doing, right? For example, in Sierra Leone, there's this land in Kono, there's diamonds, like I went there, the people that actually live there, they don't have anything, right? And then these governments are giving lands into everyone. Like I said, some of the richest people in Gambia even made their wealth in Sierra Leone, in that place, right? There's a lot of Americans, Indians, Lebanese, people making, imagine a lot of people coming to your country, you're giving them license and things, and they're making mad money, they're going back to their countries, building. The people that actually live there, they are not making anything from that, you know? I just think Sierra Leone should not even do that. All these countries that are like, is it Botswana or Namibia, like what they did with their gold and diamonds, right, with their reserves, like let the government own this thing. Even if there's someone coming in, let them have like a partner, let them have 50%, you government owns everything 50%, and then you use that money, build infrastructure, build schools, like let people have access to quality education, healthcare. When they're sick, they can easily get access to healthcare. You know, just have that basic, you know, necessity, like comfort, like basic comfort, like, you know, quality of life, a decent life. Even if that's what you're able to achieve with all your diamonds, that is totally worth it, you know. But then you have these things and the people are coming, they're making a lot of money, and then your people that are there, they're poor. Like, what's the point? And then, you know, someone like that Kiba video, someone will just say, oh, this comparison with Europe needs to stop. Africa, Dubai is too low. Dubai is in hell. Like, when you travel around, you realize that, right? Obviously, when you travel, don't just sit in, if you go to Ghana, don't go just sit in Accra. You know, if you go to Burkina Faso, don't just sit in Ouagadougou. You know, don't sit in the capitals, because there it's fine, right? But once you go out, you really realize that the continent, we really have bigger problems, right? Yeah, we have serious, let us focus on our bigger problems. But then now they're distracting us with this, freedom of expression, speech, this rights, this, right? Meanwhile, we have bigger problems, right? We just need to focus on just few things. Access to quality education, number one, food, you know, healthcare, just roads to go from point A to point B. Even at night when you're sick, a hospital, you can just easily go, right? That's it. Like, I feel like if you get that figured out, all these things, other things that we're talking about, those are for societies that have some things figured out. Like your stomach is full, now you can just sit, I want to express myself. Yeah, but people here, what to express what? Yeah, so that's it, man. Let's, I know I'm, again, yapping a lot. So let's just go to the next question, which is, do you think young West Africans need to scale and think beyond their borders? 100%, especially if you're from a smaller economy, think beyond your borders, man. Because the richest men in Gambia, some of the richest men in Gambia made their wealth, not in Europe, in America. They made their wealth on the continent, in Sierra Leone, right next here, like just 3 countries away. That's where they made their wealth. There's riches, there's things on the continent, right? And obviously, Africa has potential, everyone knows, except the Africans, you know, and you understand why that is, because we don't know much about, it's funny because we don't know a lot about each other, right? And as I travel, that's what I realized, right? We don't know a lot about each other, you know? And because, again, our borders, the restrictions, you know? But I feel like if you know, your whole life could just change just by moving to your neighboring country. From Gambia, you can just go to Senegal and your whole life will change. Because, again, if you move, you're also forced to do stuff. You're forced to, like, do something, right? So, for example, I know if I say this, some people will not be very happy, especially in Gambia, but Gambia is like a place where, Gambia is very nice, man. Gambia is like, in terms of people being nice, yeah, I'm not saying this because I'm Gambian, but I think Gambia is like the best country. Like when it comes to people just being genuinely nice and caring, and like Gambia is like hands down the best country for that, right? But then in a way, that environment, it breeds laziness, you know? Gambia is one of those places where you don't have an ID card, you don't have a passport, you don't have a job, your life is cool. That is Gambia, man. You will not have that anywhere else. I just feel like if you move, right, you just go to Senegal and then you'll be forced to do something. And eventually your life will change, you know? I'm saying this not just because in terms of business, but also for cultural exchange, just to know about each other. You know, we really need to do that. I feel like that is going to be, even though we are finding it very difficult to have this West Africa, this unity, but I feel like if we start traveling and knowing each other more, that will be easy. It will easily achieve this. Because now, me before going to Nigeria, the way I feel about Nigerians, I mean, we all, like my first video, I shared how I felt before about Nigerians, right? But now, like when I travel outside of Nigeria, even in East Africa, I'm wearing my Nigerian jersey, people see me and say, Nigeria, you know, in Tanzania, I'm like, yes now. And even when I meet a Nigerian now, outside, I'm like, I look at him like, I look at a Gambian,
my bro, how far now? You know? So now it's like, because of I travel, I know I connecting with them. So now it's like this brotherhood, there's this thing. So I feel like if you travel amongst each other, we do this more, that African unity will come sooner. Yeah, and Africa is so dope. Like, our continent has its problems. Traveling around, it will frustrate you. You will hate the officials and stuff. But boy, this continent is lit. Like this, like you will love it. I'm sure you'll even travel somewhere and then you'll just consider relocating and moving there. You know, that's how dope this continent is. It's just move around, man, if you can. You know, just move around if you can.
That's what travel does, man. And like I was telling you, I was frustrated in so many countries. But after leaving those places, I'm like, I'm glad that I went there. Even though it was very frustrating. Yes, after leaving, I'm like, even though the country showed me a lot of hell, but I'm like, I'm glad that I went there. You know, I've experienced it. I saw the people. I know what they're like. You know, I'm glad that I did that. And some places I lost a lot of money. I'm like, the money, I'll make it again. Right? But this experience, I'll never be 24, like this young, and then traveling.
It's a good mindset.
Definitely.
But it was only the last few days I started to like Mauritania. You know, I was there for 2-3 weeks.
Wow,
every
you
day.
stayed longer than me. I stayed like 10 days.
Okay.
10 days.
It was like, I hate it. And then in Nouakchott, going out in the desert, I was thinking about the trip, and then I started to like it.
That's what I'm saying. Once you're there doing the actual thing, you're like, man, this is terrible.
Nothing is working. What and it's still expensive.
When I was experiencing the whole thing, I was like, I would never advise because my dad actually was like you need to travel out, and he told me all the terrible things on the way, right? Things that he saw, because he also traveled a lot. It's terrible things that he saw, you know, people died, and he was like, you should do it. And my mom was like, all those terrible things, and you want your son to do that thing. I was like, yeah. So for me, when I was doing it, I was like, my dad really don't like me, man. Why did he encourage me to do this thing? And I was like, I'll never encourage anyone to do this. Even my kids, I will not advise them to do this. But after, when I'm done with this whole thing, I'm like, I'll actually I'll recommend you to do this. It's terrible, but do it.
Yeah.
Right? So yeah, that's the experience. Once you do it, you leave, you're like, man, there's something here. There's always a message.
Yeah.
There's always a message in each country.
At least one thing which was worth it.
Yeah, definitely. And once you're 60, you look back.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I've done something with my life. You understand?
Yeah, for me, you always have to make your 8-year-old self proud and your 80-year-old self, you know?
Yep, definitely.
Yes.
That's a good thing to live by. Make your 80 self proud
And the 81.
So now, the next question again should be my guy, Mo Bashir. He said, is exposure from travel, like the exposure that I get from traveling, is it enough? Is that enough to succeed? Obviously, no. But I mean, traveling around alone isn't enough. But it shows you like perspective. Seeing different places, right, helps you understand yourself, right? Obviously, to succeed, you need like strategy, you need resources, you need access. For me, when like traveling around, I have like this notebook where I was just keeping notes, like things. When I see something, I'm like, oh, I can do this. I was just having like these notes of business ideas and things, just things to do, not just business, but about myself, about everything. I learned some things that I really need to work on, that some things that I'm not cut out for. I just know, right? But for example, when you travel, like for example, if you're into mining or something, this is your interest or something. Once you get to Sierra Leone, you'll have ideas like, wow, okay, this, maybe I need to move here. And, you know, you'll have that thing, right? There's ideas. And if you're into like, okay, content, you know, this digital economy, this place, you get to Lagos, you get to Nigeria, you're like, wow. Because I feel like in Africa, Nigeria is like where, I don't know, I'm saying Africa, I've not been to the southern part, but I feel like Nigeria is like where all this digital money really, I feel like, I don't know the data, I've not seen, but I just feel like this way, that this is where most money is being made through tech and all this, you know, digital money, creator, all this creator economy and whatsoever. So if you're into those things, when you go to Nigeria, you just come with thousands of ideas and things that you can implement. Yeah, so I just have this idea that, okay, now, if I want to do this, okay, for example, if I go to Ghana, this is what I will do there. If I go to Togo, this is what I'll do there. If I go to Niger, even Niger, I had some like smart ideas, you know. So you're like, okay, this is what I'll do here, this is what I'll do. But I cannot tell you those things. Once you go, you will see for yourself. You know this type of person that you are, but it will show you. It will show you the opportunity. It will expose you. You learn about yourself. You know what you're capable of. And you know, okay, the limitations, obviously, in your country. Yeah, and this one says, what advice do you have for the Gambian government? Absolutely nothing, you know, absolutely nothing. because I feel like they know more than I do. Because one thing our governments are good at is traveling. You know, they travel a lot. They travel a lot, so they know more than I. So it's either they don't want to do about anything about them, or you know, they just don't care, or they're only thinking short term. You know, I feel like every government, everyone really, if we start thinking how do we make life easy for the next man, our problems gone. We've solved our problems. If the government says, okay, how do I make life easy for the citizens? Citizens say, okay, how do I make life easy for the government? The policeman says, okay, how do I make life easy for these people that are crossing this road? The drivers also say, how do I make life easy for the policeman? Your neighbor, you say, how do I make life easy for my neighbor? Problems done. Yeah, because I traveled with some Europeans, right? And I've stayed with some people in the hostels that I have, different hostels that I stayed. Then one trait that I observed, right, is this: they always try to make life easy for the next man, for the next person, you know. And I feel like maybe that's why the society and the environment is the way it is, like, because they're helping each other, making life easy for the next. The government is thinking about making life easy for their citizens, even though sometimes, even in that process of making life easy for their citizens, they're making life difficult for other citizens around the world. But, you know, at least they're thinking about their own, like, you know, thinking about making life easy for their own. So the problem really is not knowledge, because they know, you know, it's just short-sightedness and just, I don't know, yeah. Because that Ibrahim that was traveling around, she had this number of this one ECOWAS boss or something. So imagine you are traveling the border and you as a commissioner or whatever, and you are giving people your number, telling them, okay, you know what, if you get there, call me, they will let you go. That in itself shows that you have failed. You and all your team members have failed, because you know there's the problem there. The fact that you are giving out your number, you know there's a problem. You know, so imagine everyone crossing and everyone has to call you. You will not be able to do your work now. You'll just be, you know. So, like, they all know what things that are happening. Just solve these problems, man. Make life easy for us. But yeah, that is it for me for this video, this last video. So far, this is what I can remember from things that I've learned. If you find value in this, you find it helpful, subscribe to the channel, share these videos, like it, and yeah, see you on the next one.